Welcome to Real Estate Game Changers Radio, featuring real estate trendsetters and industry influencers, sharing tips and strategies to help home buyers and home sellers get the most out of their next real estate transaction. Now, here's your host, Suzanne Doyle Ingram.
This is your host, Suzanne Doyle Ingram of Real Estate Game Changers Radio, and welcome to the show today. We have a wonderful guest. He is absolutely fantastic. We actually connected through Facebook, and we've had a really great chat before this interview, and I know you're just going to love him. He is in San Francisco, which one day I will get there to visit. It's an amazing place, and Mark is such an optimist. He's such a great guy, and he's so good at real estate. He's been doing it for many years. He's lived in San Francisco for 25 plus years. He also is a wonderful contributor to his community through all the volunteering that he does for the local animal rescue organization, which we're going to talk about. And he is just the greatest guy. You're going to love him. Welcome to the show, Mark Shumway.
Well, my goodness, Suzanne, what a wonderful, wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. I have been looking very much forward to having this conversation with you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad. I look for people just like you to interview on the show, so this is just fantastic. So I want to start out right away asking you, what is it that you love about real estate?
Oh, my goodness. So that is a wonderful, wonderful question, and it's a question that I often ask myself. And at the risk of sounding trite, my sort of initial response to that is everything. I love most everything there is about real estate. This is sort of an act two for me. I come from a corporate America background, and I always sort of feel that I'm on this quest in my life to make a difference in the world and feel like I'm giving back. And while real estate doesn't initially often strike people as an altruistic career, I've loved the opportunity to help people transition into homeownership or sell their homes, or whether I'm explaining complex concepts to people and, sort of breaking it down into bite-sized pieces, or whether I'm working as a project manager, helping to coordinate the loan process, with the inspections that need to be done, with the paperwork with the title company. I often have to pinch myself, quite frankly, because I feel extremely energized by what I would describe as the enormity of my responsibility when it comes to real estate. So I love everything about it, to be in short.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that you do, because I think that is such a huge responsibility. And it's what you said about, keeping track of all aspects of the transaction. If people aren't good at that and they drop the ball, the whole thing can fall apart.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And, to be frank with you, before going into real estate, I didn't understand, the complexities and the different pieces that were involved. I mean, I find certainly that my background, which involves doing a few different things, one of them being project management, really contributes to my ability to do just what you talked about, right? Mm-hmm. How do you take all of these different components that are involved in the transaction or the sale of a home? And I mentioned just a few of them, right? I mean, you have your title company, your inspections, your loan processor, and you're working with these clients that, like me and like probably most people, don't have that sort of broader understanding. So it's really a puzzle. I often describe it as a puzzle that we're kind of putting together. And, often you have really great clients who are giving you great feedback and sort of, acknowledging and thanking you for the work that you do. It's really quite rewarding on a personal level. That is for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of that, do you have any examples of people where, you basically made their dream come true, or you helped them out in a jam when they're maybe, really needed to sell their house or really needed to find a new house?
I do. You know what? I probably have a few, but there is certainly one particular story that sticks out with me that to this day I just can think about and smile from ear to ear. And it was a true example of where I felt that I was living my value system and, making a difference in the world. I had the opportunity to work with a lovely, lovely woman who was moving to San Francisco after her husband passed away. This was sort of fulfilling a lifelong dream for her to live in San Francisco. She was moving from Sacramento, which is, probably an hour and a half outside of outside of town.
Mm-hmm.
She was referred to me by some very good friends in Sacramento, and she wanted to just experience retirement in San Francisco. So we spent close to a year looking at various homes, looking at various condos, single-family residences, and she found a condo, I mean, much to maybe her surprise and maybe a little bit my surprise. She purchased a condo in a very large condo complex in downtown San Francisco, in the heart of San Francisco.
Wow.
She's lived there for, I think we're probably only arriving at her 2-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. But it was an amazing experience to help her realize that dream for herself. And I will never, ever, ever forget the opportunity to work with her. It meant everything to me.
Oh, that's great. And I'm sure she really needed, you and a trusted friend that could guide her. I think sometimes when people are grieving, if they jump into buying a place right away, she really might have needed that whole year to really think about what it is she wanted.
She was the sweetest woman in the world. I mean, I've been blessed with really amazing clients, but yes, I certainly was given the opportunity to be by her side and sort of honor that experience that she was having in grieving the passing of her husband, and at the same time recognizing maybe a little deeper that, life is short. Mm-hmm. And we need to make choices, and we need to make decisions, and I feel that that's where she was. And to, reuse that term, it was a huge honor for me to be her real estate agent, to go through that with her. And, we still touch base every couple months because she's one of my favorite people.
Oh, that's so nice. It's amazing the kind of people that your business can bring into your life and how you end up becoming friends with them sometimes. I bet you do.
I do. I really, really do. It's been an interesting journey for me. I felt early on that, I was supposed to focus on a certain demographic, right? I should focus on, maybe baby boomers who are selling their homes and wanting to downsize or wanting to get something bigger and fulfill a dream. There's a lot of young techies here in San Francisco. And then there's a lot of, a very diverse group of people in the middle. And so I spent some time, thinking I would focus. But what I have found is that, and I say this with tremendous gratitude, I found that I have attracted a very diverse client base, which has really given me the opportunity to really hone in and develop my ability to establish and build ongoing relationships. I mean, my career in the past, which was around, leadership development and executive coaching, certainly has helped. But as far as your specific question, building friendships, building long-term relationships, again, I do it. I love it. I genuinely care about my clients. It's not just a paycheck for me, or it's not only a paycheck for me in any way. Yeah. And I've worked with some really, really, really amazing people.
I know, and it's so neat. I think once you've become established in your career, I'm sure that, even if you wanted to specialize in one particular type of client, how could you? Because you have referrals coming to you all the time.
Right.
So you can't, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think that's a really, really good question, or really good call out, I should say. I'm thinking about my referrals. I'm thinking about the type of people that have been sent to me. It's interesting because the different demographics that I interact with, often their referrals, and I suppose this isn't any surprise, but often their referrals, sort of fall within the same sort of, age group or the same sort of, career. They work for the same company. But my background, again, if we want to get to that at any point and talk about...
Yeah, I do. I do want to ask you. Let's talk about that, because I think there's hardly any real estate agents or realtors who start out at, 18 years old. So everybody seems to have a different career that they bring to the table, so to speak. Right. So I would like to know more about what you did before you became a realtor and why you decided to get into real estate. Okay.
So I spent a lot of years, as I said at the beginning of the conversation, in corporate America, and I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity. I sort of went into corporate America straight out of college. I was very young and idealistic at the time, and I wanted to sort of save the world, as many, younger people, that sort of perspective that we bring. but I wanted to sort of give back, and so I went into a boring insurance company. I'd planned to work there just for a couple of years, and then sort of explore maybe working with children in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. And I ended up finding great success at that particular company, and I was with that company for many, many years. The majority of those years I spent in the area of leadership development and executive coaching. So I was given this great opportunity to work one-on-one with tremendously successful leaders within the organization around, areas that you would probably imagine. How do you develop individuals? How do you develop teams? And what I believe that gave me in terms of my own skill set is really, how do you coach people so that you are working with a diverse group of people? Again, sort of coming back to what I do. Mm-hmm. How do you take complex concepts and break them down? I used to say to the leaders, sort of a little analogy I would use is really thinking about your teams as a garden. And this may sound silly, but it makes sense. If you think of this garden and all of these different individual plants and flowers, mm-hmm. and having the responsibility of determining, what motivates, what inspires, what will create, a thriving environment for each individual flower, and it's different for each one. Mm-hmm, and so I've been able to take that same concept and apply it to my real estate career, kind of getting back to what we talked about, as I work with 1 million different people from 1 million different backgrounds. Yeah. How do I adjust? How do I customize my approach most effectively so that I am optimizing and maximizing the interaction and experience of my clients?
Oh, that's amazing. And something else that just popped in my head too is thinking about how your experience as an executive coach, one of the things I think would be so valuable is when you're guiding your clients, you don't want to tell them what to do, but you want to give them enough information to help them arrive at their own decision.
Absolutely.
To help them feel supported, right?
No, I mean, you couldn't be more correct. A term you often hear in real estate, it's an interesting concept for me because a term that you often hear people describe themselves is as a real estate consultant. Oh. And when you sort of think about what does a consultant do, I know for me it feels very clear in terms of exactly what you just said. I'm not here to drive your decision making. I'm not here in any capacity to tell you what to do. I'm here to educate you, inform you, make sure that you are fully aware of sort of the implications of different decisions that can be made, and then position you to make good decisions. And that could be from the very beginning point where I'm meeting with a buyer for the first time and they're just starting to look at houses. Yeah. And so we can talk about architecture, we can talk about neighborhoods, we can talk about what is a disclosure packet and what does it tell you, all the way through a transaction where we're looking at information that's on a title report or, information that came as we were looking at the foundation for the property and decisions that have a little bit broader, maybe larger implication. Mm-hmm. It's guiding them through the process and helping them make their own best decisions.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm sure they're lucky to have you.
You're so sweet. I know. I genuinely absolutely love what I do. I truly have to pinch myself.
That's so great.
Often.
So great. Yeah, I love what we're both very lucky that we found, not employment, I shouldn't say, but careers that we love.
Yes.
Yeah,
Amen.
I'm still very lucky. So I want to switch gears for a minute and ask you about San Francisco. So tell me about San Francisco. Are there different neighborhoods that you specialize in? I mean, it must be huge. So I want to know about that, and also what's really great about San Francisco.
I'm going to start sounding like a broken record if I keep responding everything is great about San Francisco. So San Francisco, and it struck my ear that you've not actually been here.
No, you know what? I did go once when I was a child, but I haven't been there for a while, and I really want my husband and I to come for a romantic weekend in San Francisco. I think that'd be so fun.
It is the perfect city for a romantic weekend. Yeah. And what you will see, as I imagine you've probably seen in movies and postcards and coffee table books along the way, San Francisco is a really great and interesting blend of different age of homes, but architecture as well, right? So you have the traditional, Victorian homes that line every street, that have a smaller lot line, meaning that they're all sort of up close to each other.
Oh yeah, like in the typical pictures that San Francisco always shows.
Yes.
Those are the beautiful multicolored houses, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
the painted ladies is what a lot of people often do.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And then you have a lot of brand new architecture. Mm-hmm. So similar to your question earlier about, do I specialize? Is there an area of focus for me? It's kind of a similar path. Mm-hmm. I felt early on that I would focus on brand new architecture or brand new construction, new condos. Mm-hmm. And then I found a lot of clients that were very interested in purchasing new condos. But then I started to attract clients that had no interest in the brand new, architecture, that they wanted the traditional, Victorian homes that San Francisco provides. And so I have found myself all these years later, really working throughout San Francisco. There is never, ever a dull moment, particularly when it comes to the older homes. As you may imagine, there's, issues like moisture that, require, closer inspections to be done on the houses. Even sort of evaluating the condition of a home here is a puzzle, right? It can be a puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's something that often clients don't understand. So San Francisco is amazing. I often hear that if you can sell real estate in San Francisco, you can sell real estate anywhere.
Oh, really?
I don't know how. Well, just because there's so much regulation here in San Francisco, there's so much oversight.
Good.
In terms of tenant protection laws and inspections on the properties and who does the inspections. So there's never a dull moment, and that's the good part.
And I think one thing that I am so attracted to San Francisco for is, there's a couple things. One is the weather. I don't think it gets like boiling hot. I think there's only a few days a year where it's like too hot. Mostly it's just pleasant all the time, isn't it?
It is. The way I describe it, and this is precisely why I live here and have lived here for many, many years, is it's between 55 and 75 95% of the year.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, not only is it never too hot, but it's never too cold. We have a lot of microclimates, and by microclimates, I mean, and this is totally true, you can be on one block and it's, a certain temperature, and you can go to the next block over and it's 10 degrees warmer.
Wow.
So layers of clothes is always the year-round solution. It's an amazing city.
Is it quite walkable? Do you walk most places?
Yeah, it is walkable. San Francisco is really hilly. There are a lot of hills in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, right.
As a real estate agent, I spend a large majority of my time looking at properties, and so I'm often in my car, driving around, parking, going in and out. But yeah, in terms of the walkability, in terms of finding a coffee shop on most every corner, it's perfect. It's perfect. I don't imagine myself living anywhere else.
Yeah, and the other thing that really attracts me to San Francisco is thinking about all different types of people from all different walks of life and all different ethnic backgrounds. And just, it seems to me like like Vancouver, very inclusionary and a very comfortable place to just be who you are.
It really is. And, it's interesting for me because there are a lot of successful people working here in San Francisco. And I call that out in the context of your comment because I find that when you go to other parts of the country, that it's often more readily visible or apparent someone's sort of socioeconomic status in the world, whether it be the way they're dressed or the purse that they're carrying or the car that they're driving. In contrast, I find in San Francisco that it's not apparent, right? I mean, you could have your, tattooed person from head to toe, that's, the multimillionaire.
And you never know. And they don't act like it. I know, that's the same as where I'm from, and it's so interesting because you could meet someone just walking your dog one day, and then someone said to me, this happened, they said, did you know that he's a Nobel Prize winner?
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I would have never guessed.
Yeah, I couldn't tell by his gumboots.
yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
And even the cars people drive here, people are very environmentally conscious.
Yes, right.
So you have your multimillionaires in the Priuses all over town. So and I hugely appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Now, speaking of environmentally conscious, does that translate over into the real estate? Are there a lot of energy efficient things that I'm sure you could do in San Francisco that you can't do in other really cold parts of the country?
So there is a lot. So there's a huge movement in San Francisco to be environmentally green. And in fact, we're required to do energy inspections on properties, and it's actually a document or a process that's recorded on the deed, on the title.
Wow.
And it's things like making sure that you have water restrictors in your faucets, and it's making sure that when you install new heaters and furnaces that they are Energy Star and energy efficient. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a lot of green activity taking place in San Francisco, and it definitely impacts real estate, particularly from like an appliance perspective, and an installation perspective, and putting in double pane windows, and like I said earlier, there's a lot of oversight, and certainly environmental issues are no exception.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, interesting. And what about solar panels? Do you use them a lot there?
Yeah, I have not dealt with a lot of solar panels on any of the houses that I have bought or sold with my clients.
I think they're quite expensive to install, but I bet you they're going to come down in price in the next few years.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole sort of, thought process around that, around our recent election, and lots of things that I'll spare you in the context of this conversation. But it is my hope that solar panels sort of takes over solar energy, I should say, takes over the country. It's certainly something that will help our planet Earth.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It totally makes sense to me. So speaking of helping the planet Earth, let's talk about helping the little animals, and tell me about your amazing work you do with pet rescue. Because we spoke about this before the interview, so let's share it with the listeners now.
Okay. So I'm glad you asked. It's actually one of my favorite things to talk about. And to sort of set some context for this, when I went into real estate, I think that there's sort of this notion out there about many real estate agents and who we are and what our value systems are. And I think that notion or that perception, often comes from reality, right? I mean, people have interacted with agents and maybe not always had the most positive experiences in the past. And unfortunately, those experiences sort of impact the whole population of those of us who sell real estate. I say all that because I made a really strict promise to myself when I went into real estate that I was going to incorporate my values, my personal value system, into my real estate business. And even though at the time I wasn't totally clear on what that meant or what that looked like, I knew that it was something that was important to me that I would not compromise. Animal rescue has been my passion my entire life. The safe care and protection of animals, homing animals that are in, foster care and the SPCA, is something that I live and breathe. And so what I have found is that I have been able to partner with local rescue organizations. I've been able to fulfill my, internal desire to volunteer, spend a lot of time with these animals, which could really be anything from holding and kissing them at an adoption event and showing them to people, hoping that somebody will take them home, or, driving, 2 hours out of town to pick up a dog that needs to be delivered to a foster home and delivering that dog.
That's so nice.
It means everything to me. And so the opportunity to really marry my real estate career with these rescue organizations where, frankly, there's benefit to all of us. I can market myself. I can market them so that they're getting increased donations. I'm working with rescue organizations to get referrals with sort of the promise that when I'm able to close transactions that I would donate money on behalf of my client.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been really, really cool. And, the reaction I've gotten to that has been interesting because there's not sort of an apparent or obvious connection between sort of animal rescue and real estate. And it's been a tremendous honor once again for me to be able to really shed the light on the need for taking care of our animals.
Oh, yeah.
which I have a whole house full of.
Yeah,
so,
that was going to be my next question. So how many do you have?
Well, I don't want to sound like that old man that has like a million animals.
The crazy cat lady.
The crazy cat lady, exactly. I have 3 foster failures, and I'm not sure if that's a term that you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah, I am actually. That's hilarious. Because you tried to foster them and then you fell in love with them?
I tried to foster them, and then I fell in love with them. And they're 3 little dogs. They're Chihuahuas. I'm a huge Chihuahua fan. I know that there's a lot of mixed perspectives out there about Chihuahuas. I personally find them to be amazing.
They're so cute.
Yeah, they're so cute. I mean, between the 3 of them, they're 15 pounds. So,
wow.
They are mine. I fostered all 3 of them. I kept all 3 of them. And they are truly what I describe as my reward at the end of every day, right? Yeah. You go out in the world, we work hard, we try to make a difference, we do our best, and then we come home. And I get to come home to my daughter as well. Yeah. And these 3 little girls.
Oh, that's so great. Aw.
Yeah.
And, I interviewed another realtor from Newport Beach. His name's David Felbert, and he is very, very passionate about pet rescue as well. And it's so interesting talking to him, too, because he said he and his partner have a rule. I can't remember what it was now, but I think they're only allowed to foster like 10 or something like that, and I think he called his foster failures too. He has 3 dogs, and
okay.
I only have 1 dog, and I was reluctant to get a dog because I thought, I got 3 kids already, I don't need a dog, and I just accidentally fell madly in love with our little guy.
Yeah, what kind do you have again?
He is a mix because he's a rescue. So we think he's Pomeranian and Havanese.
Oh, nice.
And he's black and fluffy. And then the back of him, all up his butt and his tail is a white stripe. So he looks like a little skunk from behind.
Oh, that's adorable.
He is so adorable. He's the nicest dog in the entire world. Everybody thinks so. Now I sound like a crazy dog lady. But
I can hear your love for your dog.
Yeah.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say that if you ever decide to get a second, there's plenty to pick from out there. I know.
And my kids do want another one because they want him to have a little friend. But yeah, I know we would at some point. I'm sure we will at some point. But yeah, I think it's important for anybody listening to understand. Some people don't know that there's a big difference between going into a pet store in a mall and buying a puppy and then going to your local SPCA or your shelter. A lot of those dogs when those shelters get too full, they get put down depending on the regulations, where you are. But it's very, very sad, and they desperately need homes.
It's awful. It really is. I always tell people, I strive in my life to just be really loving and accepting of the individual choices that people have. And so I say that because I do know people that, despite my urging them to go to the SPCA and see what's available, have elected to purchase their dogs from a puppy breeder or a puppy mill, I think is a more appropriate term. But I do encourage people to go down to their local shelter and just look, at the sheer number of animals that are sitting in those cages and they're looking out at you with those eyes. And, there's this perception that there will be problems with these animals. And, throughout my life experience and the experience of the people that I know, that's just simply not the case.
No, they're not given up because they were a problem. Sometimes people move away. Sometimes they're abandoned. We got our dog because his owner was an elderly woman and she was going into a home. And he was perfectly trained. He was 2.5 years old and he's perfect dog. He's amazing.
And just to think about the transition he went through, right? Losing his human, and thank goodness he found you. So, amen.
It's so neat with 3 kids because they all, over the years, have treated him so differently. My son is rough and tumble and always chasing him around and everything like that, and Buster loves it. And then my middle daughter she and I just have this cute little ritual where I go at nighttime, I say, Buster, it's night time, and he knows, so he lies down and he rolls over onto his back, and then I pick him up like a baby and put him in her bed. It sounds so ridiculous, but
it's amazing.
It's so great. And then my teenager, her relationship with him is more like, if she's having a bad day, she'll cuddle with him or whatever, but he's very different with each kid, and I think that's something that people that don't have dogs, they don't realize. He's just such an amazing addition to our family.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone, listen to your story, right? It wasn't something that you were necessarily seeking out, and it kind of fell into your lap, and that story is shared by so many people who had no idea that they loved dogs or no idea that they would want a dog. And they get one, and their life is forever enriched because of it.
And the kids too. It's so good for our kids to know. There's this helpless little being that he can't talk. He can't tell us what he needs. You got to try to figure him out. He's so easy that. And just to see even things like for my kids, if we get in the car and we go to the local butcher shop and we buy a dog bone that's like a real bone with real meat on it that's been smoked and it's totally human grade, and then just for our kids to be able to see the joy that our dog has in being able to get this bone, it's just so cool. I think
true joy.
It's going to help them be better parents one day.
Better people.
Yeah, better people, totally.
Better people. Good. Yeah. I totally agree. So,
and I always say to people, the name of this show is, when I say building, what am I talking about? The name of the show is Real Estate Game Changers. Well, I think that's what makes you a real estate game changer is the fact that you're so giving and caring with the pet shelters, and also how you marry your true values of who you are into your business. I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's certainly, it's easy to do often. It's harder to do at other times when we sort of get caught up in sort of transactions that maybe are running into some issues, and how do you sort of bring that value system not only around animal welfare for me, but when I speak of bringing my values to the table, it's around authenticity as well. It's around truth. It's about sometimes delivering difficult information to people in a way that's loving and caring and nurturing and productive.
Yes.
And so it's something that I recommit to every single morning of my life.
And I know that you are such an optimist, and you really walk your talk, because a couple of times that we've spoken, I really sense that just little things that you've said to me, and I go, oh yeah, that's true. Like to really have an attitude of gratitude, to be grateful for every day that we have, and to also be an optimist, to know that if something isn't going right, you can turn it around. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I certainly can speak to that. And again, thank you for those kind words. I am an eternal optimist. I genuinely believe in the goodness of people. I genuinely believe that with great effort that things work out always in the end. And it's not just sort of this isolated perspective. It's a perspective that comes from living, right? And having challenges in our lives, and understanding that we learn and we grow from them, and understanding that even those challenges are teaching opportunities for us. And so where that serves me well, it serves me well in most aspects of my life. Where it serves me well as a real estate agent is it's stressful. It's stressful for people. Yeah. And, when I'm doing my first buyer meetings with people, I go through this whole agenda of things that I think are important for them to think about and to be aware of. And then at the very end of what I'm distributing to them in very large letters, I write, real estate is an endurance sport. Mm-hmm. And we kind of laugh when we talk about what that means. And it is an endurance sport, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It can be stressful. It can take a lot of time. You can have offers not accepted. You can run into unexpected issues with your properties. You can run into unexpected issues with your lender. There's all sorts of issues that can come up. Where I feel that my value is added in that process is my ability to keep perspective, to inspire them, to motivate them, to be a problem solver, to help fix things for them, to be that sort of conduit of reaching out to the myriad of business partners that we're working with. And then as sort of an underlying theme for all of that, back to your point, is I know it's going to work out. I know that with effort and focus energy, it will work out. And I have found that attitude towards life and my career is really, really beneficial for my clients. I've seen it in play. It means everything to me, and I'm grateful for that characteristic, quite frankly, which while we're on, I attribute to my beautiful bohemian mother.
Oh, wow.
Who was also an eternal optimist.
That's great.
So I credit her for that.
You know, it's so funny because I am too, and then I hear it in my kids sometimes, and they say, "Oh, that's okay, it'll totally work out," and I go, "Oh, yeah."
Hey, well, good. See, you've taught them.
Does your daughter share the same philosophy?
Madison
She's a teenager, so we got to.
Madison is a teenager. Yes, I have a 16-year-old daughter who is driving. She's been driving for the last 2 months.
Oh my goodness! I don't even want my daughter to start driving.
Oh my God, she is driving. Well, I mean, on a side note, she's been driving for 2 months, but on a little bit later this week, she's driving 2 hours on the freeway.
No,
and I'm freaked out about the whole thing.
I bet you are. I would be.
Yes, she is an eternal optimist. Madison is a very, very caring individual. She was, even as a young child, she was the one on the soccer field, if somebody was injured, that would run over to them and put her arm around them and, nurture them and talk them through it. Yeah, it is. I mean, she's a challenge in probably all the right ways for a 16-year-old that's learning to assert herself and learning to develop her own opinion, her own perspective, her own points of view. But she definitely approaches the world through a lens of hope and positive energy and optimism. And I couldn't be more grateful for her.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. So we're almost running out of time here, but I want to just ask you, I think I already know, but what would you say if someone asked you, Mark, how are you different than your competitors or everybody else?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and a question I ask myself often as I sort of have evolved in my career. It's similar to what we've kind of talked about. I bring spirit to my work. One of my taglines in my marketing is I bring expertise and heart to all your San Francisco real estate needs. And I really went back and forth on that sort of line because how do I sort of encapsulate who I am in a really short, high-impact sentence? And I very specifically added heart to that sentence. Where I think I uniquely add value to the real estate industry is not only my ability to understand the real estate industry, the complexities, the technicalities, the sort of nuances, but it is a genuine caring and compassion heart that I bring to the table with every single client that I work with. And I have found that approach to life, that approach to my clients, bringing Mark Shumway to the table and being authentic has sort of made a huge difference in my career across the board and particularly in real estate.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And I can totally believe that because I just love any conversation I have with you makes me feel like it's going to be a better day.
You're so kind. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time on this interview today. And now, if anyone's listening, how can they get a hold of you?
That is a fantastic question. I keep saying that to you, but you are clearly asking a series of other questions. So I am a San Francisco real estate agent, as we've talked about. I've lived here for many, many years. I know San Francisco extremely well. I would love to hear from anybody, even remotely interested, in exploring San Francisco real estate, whether you're buying or selling. I can be reached at 415. I'll give you my phone number.
Okay.
It's 415-314-0870. And I also have a website, which is markshumway.com. But more importantly, I'm really active on my Facebook business page. Okay. And so you could go to Mark Shumway /San Francisco Realtor. If you punch that into the search air box on Facebook, you will find me, Mark Shumway /San Francisco Realtor. And I would love to hear from you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much again. That was an absolutely wonderful interview.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
This has been another episode of Real Estate Game Changers Radio with your host, Suzanne Doyle Ingram. To hear all episodes featuring our hand-picked real estate game changers, visit us online at www.realestategamechangersradio.com.